This is a fraction word problem, and it says Catherine mixed yellow paint and blue paint to make green paint. She poured 2/6 of a cup of yellow paint into a jar. After she poured the blue paint into the jar, there was a total of 5/6 of a cup of green paint in the jar. How much blue paint did Catherine pour into the jar? I want you just to think about what is happening in this question and try to picture it. So imagine that you have a jar, it's empty. Then you pour in some yellow paint, and then you pour in some blue paint, and then it mixes together and it turns green. Since the denominator is 6, we're saying 2/6, 5/6, we are going to split our model into 6. So you can see we have our model here, and I already split it into 6. What I want you to do is just think about the information we do know and fill that in, and then kind of try to figure out what is it that we still need to figure out. So what do we know? Do we know how much yellow paint she put in? Do we know how much blue paint she put in? Do we know how much she ended up with? What do we know? We know how much yellow paint she poured in. She poured in 2/6. It gave us that. So pull 2 of these over. That's how much yellow she put in. Then she put in some blue, right? But they didn't tell us how much blue. Because look, it says how much, just a sec, there we go. How much blue paint did Catherine pour in? That's the actual question, how much blue paint? So we know that she put in some blue paint, but we don't actually know how much. What do we know? What is the other piece of information that they give us? It tells us how full the jar got. Whatever blue paint she poured in, it raised this amount of paint, right? And picture, like you pour some paint into a jar and then you pour other paint on top of it, it fills the jar up. And that's all Catherine is doing, is filling the jar up. So she put in some mysterious amount of blue paint, and once she was done, we ended up with 5/6 of a cup of green paint. So I'm actually going to draw another little square here just to show myself where we ended up. 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6. This reminds me of like those poster thermometers that people fill up when they're fundraising for something. We're seeing how far she filled it up. Let me make this green to remind myself that it ended up mixing and turning green. Okay, there you go. So she put in some amount of blue paint to raise the paint up to this point, or this point here, up to 5/6. So how many did she put in? How many sixths of a cup of blue paint did she put in to get there? 1, 2, 3. Because at the end she ended up with 5/6, and then it all mixed together and turned green. But that's okay. You don't need to turn it green. We just want to be able to see, she started with yellow, she put in enough blue to get up to 5/6. But don't let these questions confuse you or stress you out. If you just draw a model, focus on what you do know, and that'll help you fill in the pieces. All right, so she put in 3/6 of a cup of blue paint. And to fill in those text boxes, all I did was click and then I started typing. And that's how we solved this word problem using a model.